It's just struck midday, Byron, and sorry, I spent ages, missed the wrong turning, but great to see you. And of course, we've been trying to do this for ages, but you're a busy man, globetrotting.
Ages, and welcome to sunny Leicester.
It is.
Don't miss
sunny.
the junction, because it takes you around some beautiful countryside, which is great, but not when you're in a hurry.
Not when you're in a hurry, so apologies for that. But listen, things good with you?
Things are good, can't complain. Can't complain.
So for those who are just tuning in, either watching or listening, I'm speaking to Byron Dixon, entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Will tell us an interesting story. It's a very interesting story as to how I ended up speaking to you. You're a multi-award winner. I know you won awards at our events. And the one thing I always know about you, and if you're watching this, you'll see what I'm saying. You got the most amazing smile, but we'll talk about the smile a bit later.
I can do grumpy face when Chelsea lose.
Yes, let's not do that. Yeah. The result recently wasn't good. Madrid.
Yeah.
Close. But
moving on.
Yeah, moving on swiftly on. Right. So, what I wanted to do today, Byron, was touch on a couple of things. One was social mobility. In other words, why do entrepreneurs do or don't succeed? How does their background impact on whether they succeed or don't succeed? How does the lack of, or sometimes maybe not, inspirational figures help them on their journey or not? And to what extent is actually your background the driver to take you? Does that make sense? So sometimes
that's a lot of questions. I need a notepad to write them all down.
So we'll go through them bit by bit if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So let's kick off. You enjoyed chemistry.
Well, enjoyed is a strong word. I could do chemistry.
You could do chemistry, but that's important that you could do chemistry, couldn't you?
That's all I could do.
And then you went to work for
a chemical company.
Right.
Yeah. So at school, ironically, the school I went to is not far from here, just over there. My mum still lives in the same house, which is just down there.
Okay.
And if you drive around this area, you'll see the area that I grew up in, which isn't the greatest. But what they realised was I could do chemistry. From a very young age, I remember having a chemistry kit. I don't know if you remember, those chemistry kits you could get as a Christmas present. And I just loved it, and I could do it. And I couldn't do anything else. Chemistry and play football. So as time went on, one of my teachers said to me, "You're stuck on this council estate, kid. If you want to get off it, do your chemistry." That was the driver.
And it's extraordinary because I don't know many from an Afro-Caribbean background like yourself.
Yeah.
I know a few Indians, but not many people were into chemistry. Okay, so you enjoyed chemistry. Your teacher said, "Listen, you better sort yourself out."
Basically,
chemistry, yeah. Where did you go next then? You obviously finished school.
Yes, I did chemistry. I did O-levels, A-levels.
Yeah.
And then I wrote to ICI for a job. ICI was the biggest chemical company in the world.
Yeah.
They were English.
Yeah.
So I wrote to them. They sent me to their nearest depot, which was in Loughborough, the nearest one to Leicester.
Yeah.
That happened to be ICI Leather Finishes.
Yeah.
So I travelled along to Loughborough, and I got a job with, it was Zeneca. It just changed to Zeneca at the time. They'd divulged two companies. And I went off to work for Zeneca Leather Finishes. The company was actually called Stahl. So I trotted in there with my A-levels, in a lab coat, got a job in the development lab, hated it, bored. Another thing about me is I get bored very quickly. So if I get up in about 7.7 seconds, I've just got bored. And I switched jobs within the company to go on to customer service.
Okay, so away from chemistry then?
Still doing the chemistry, but dealing with customers.
Okay.
So customers, typically footwear companies like Clark's or churches, had problems with the leather finishes, or the shoe finishes they call them. They'd ring up, they'd send some leather in for testing, and I would do all the testing.
Got it.
But also I'd speak to them on the phone, I'd make a note of all what needed doing, I'd source the products and send them the test reports back. So I built up a relationship with people, which is something I've always loved doing.
So people plus chemistry seems like a great ingredient.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're working for a corporate, so why didn't you stay there?
Well,
most people would have said, great job.
Yeah.
I'm sorted for life, job done.
Yeah, and anybody that knows me will know that corporate life and me just don't go. You know, I've been told from when I was very young that I am the archetypal free spirit. I'm a Piscean, I'm a dreamer, and I'm a free spirit. And corporate life, it has its place, but for me, after a while, I just felt I was being crushed as a person. So I love the job, I love the clients. In fact, some of the clients I still deal with today, 30 years later. But the environment of working for a corporation, I just found it crushing. I put the feelers out and I got headhunted by Echo, the Danish shoe company. Got interviewed by a guy in in London, Søren Steer. He's now one of the top people at Echo, vice president. It was a Man United versus Chelsea evening, and I thought he was here for the Man United. We spoke about Schmeichel, and I spoke about Chelsea. And we interviewed and we got on like a house on fire. So in the end, I went off to Echo.
But you still stay within corporate, though?
Well, Echo is a big company, but it's not a corporate.
Okay.
It's not a corporation. And the difference, I mean, somebody will tell me there's a smart, proper difference, but it's run from the bottom up. And that's a major difference. So I joined a big company of about 10,000 employees.
Yeah, that's right.
But when you join, you're expected to make your own mark. There's minimal rules. You're like an entrepreneur in a business. So rather than being a corporation, hey, listen, I'm not slagging off corporations.
No.
You've all got your place, but there's lots of rules and procedures and etiquette and
which is why they've grown to where
which is why they've grown, and they've got standard practices of works, and they've reproduced that.
Yeah.
Echo it's like the model turned upside down.
Wow.
So
interesting.
Whatever role you join, you can make a difference very quickly. You can walk into the CEO's office. Okay, maybe not these days, you may have to have a divisional manager, but with an idea that the whole company will adopt because it makes sense. And that suited me down to the ground. So they would rip up the rule book if they thought it was a viable proposition, made the product better, made the company more profitable, or made them more efficient.
So what happened there then? But you moved on?
I loved it.
Oh, you loved it?
The bit I didn't realise at the interview was the job was in Denmark.
Slight little detail.
Yeah, so...
Slight little detail.
Sorry if you're listening, I didn't pick that up. I mean, I did actually have a second interview in Denmark, which is ironic, but I just thought the job was in London. So I accepted the job. They sent me this fax with all the details. It was in Danish, which I thought was a bit odd, but I thought, sounds good. Did a quick calculation on the numbers because it was in Danish kroner.
Yeah.
And I thought, great, I'll take it. And then they said, do you want to fly from Heathrow or East Midlands? And I said, where to? And they went, Denmark. So I thought, do you know what? Why not? I can always come back.
Yeah.
And my mum is Jamaican. My parents are Jamaican. Lost my father a few years ago. When they came to England, my dad didn't like England. And to cut a long story short, my mum and dad split up, so my mum was left with 5 kids on a council estate as a single parent.
Tough.
And I think something I will need to say is immigration is a naturally entrepreneurial thing to do. It has, in the press generally, some negative connotations, but if you think about it, you're leaving your family, your family is similar. How many people would get up today from the Shires, let's just say, and go and live in a foreign country, you don't know anybody, in some cases you haven't even got a job, but to make a better life. So it's a naturally entrepreneurial thing to do.
It's a risky thing to do,
it's
but it's
risky
entrepreneurial.
thing, but it's entrepreneurial.
Well, Byron, all the stats show that startups, a higher percentage of immigrants are responsible for startups than the indigenous population.
Yeah.
And it's not just this country, any country. So
that's right.
Immigrants have less to lose, in effect.
Yeah.
Probably struggle to get employment.
That's
as a
right.
result.
Don't have the social network,
So their immediate recourse is to set up their own business.
That's right.
So immigration, whilst a lot of people lambast it, actually can create a lot of wealth because they're the most people keen to set up startups and they're the ones who do the startups. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Byron.
Yeah, it's a natural entrepreneurial thing to do. So I went off to Denmark.
Yeah.
I became an immigrant in Denmark because I was born here.
Yeah.
And I realised, geez, this is difficult. I had a job, which most people don't have when they immigrate. Culture, language, money, tax, library, even going to the library.
which now gives you a total perspective on your parents.
Completely total perspective on my parents.
You think, oh, God,
and it's difficult. But you know what? I love the challenge.
Okay.
Denmark's a great country. I'm hoping to go back there in a couple of months. But the challenge, I love a challenge. And the deeper the challenge, I think it grows you as a person. So I went off to Denmark. Jeg taler dansk, if there's any Danish people listening, or Swedish. I've just said I speak Danish in Danish, so I learnt the language.
We did a few gigs in Denmark.
Did you?
Really nice, really nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, Karen,
if you ever need a translator, don't hire me because I'll get you to say the wrong thing. But it opened my mind. Ninder, it completely broadened my mind.
So is that because, and is that what led you to success later? Is that you were certainly in an uncomfortable zone, and a zone in which only you could learn, because everything you did thereafter you were going to be learning because it was so alien to you, and they say that's the area of growth. The more alien activities you do every day, things you're not comfortable with,
that's right,
the more you grow.
You grow. And I grew in Echo. I mean, I grew in Zeneca in a different way, but I grew in Echo in 4 years massively, because there's nobody to ask. When you ask, they say, well, what would you do? You're a grown-up. Very simple things, even in the workplace.
I know we're going to be talking about global later, but do you think you spending 4 years outside of your country helped you then to understand how to grow globally?
Massively.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, massively. And most Danes, some Danes, or most, I guess it's most, there'll be a Danish person watching who'll correct me, they spend part of their schooling life, their sort of post-16 education, in another country. They generally have a year. So a good friend of mine, Thomas, his son, Simon, went off to Memphis for a year. So I saw Simon in English, from a baby. When he was 16, he went off to Memphis, and then I was FaceTiming him in Memphis, and he was telling me about the elections coming up, the American elections with Donald Trump. And I thought, you're 16.
Yeah.
And they come back to Denmark or wherever they land in the world, and their minds are like this.
Yeah, completely. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So for me to go there for 4 years, Ninder, my mind just went like that. And I was the biggest sponge. I travelled so much. I learnt languages, I learnt cultures, and I learnt that things are not right or wrong, they're just different.
Yeah.
So yeah, it gave me a completely different perspective on life.
What was the next step after that then?
The next step was, Denmark's a great country. It's expensive.
Yeah.
It's cold in the winter.
It's
very dark.
Very dark.
And I wouldn't say I got homesick, but I just felt I needed a change. So I came back to England with my partner at the time. She was homesick, I wasn't. And I started my own business.
Right, so here's the question then. So you didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial environment? No. You went to school like most of the kids?
Yeah.
You went into corporate like most people?
Yeah.
Now, having done work in corporate environments, you suddenly decide, completely flip it, to go on your own.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about being uncomfortable when you got to Denmark. That must have been uncomfortable, suddenly switching like that with no long-term. In other words, you weren't as a little kid saying, I want to be an entrepreneur.
No.
So this is a complete radical. How uncomfortable was that decision?
Which, the Danish one or the...
No, the entrepreneur one, having now come across and suddenly... I mean, you are flipping it here, totally.
Yeah, completely. Back and forwards, yeah.
Complete flip.
Well, the owner of Echo, the guy who started Echo, Carl Toosby,
yeah.
KT we knew him as. Ironically, we have the same birthday, February the 23rd.
Okay.
So people can feel free to send me nice presents at that time of year. But when I spoke to KT about coming back to England, I should say, he said to me, you need to start your own business. And he basically said, I've seen enough in you that you need to start your own business. He said, don't work for anybody. And he said, now you have a global network through working for Echo, because I travelled all the time. And he advised me to start my own business, which I did. So I started a business consulting with shoe companies.
Okay, so consultation first.
Consultation. Died a complete death.
I was going to say, how easy was that? Obviously not.
It was, starting a business is tough.
Yeah.
So 0 turnover, 0 sales, lots of peddling, lots of selling, nothing. But what I realised was that people said to me, you're the technician, you know the products, you can formulate stuff, you're the chemist. So I flipped it again. So instead of advising them, I said, this is what the product you should be using, and I sourced the products. the finishes and the lacquers and the waxes.
Yeah.
So it went from Corium Consultants to Corium Solutions. And we started supplying, and then we started manufacturing. Tough, because manufacturing is expensive. You got a lot of cost, and the sales were tiny.
A lot of investment.
So my savings that I had, which was 12 grand when I came back from Denmark, quickly went to nothing. And I was living in a little terrace house. And then I decided to formulate a product to stop mould growing and see if I could on leather and see if I could sell it back to the industry.
And that's what you did?
And that's what I did.
And when did you know that idea that you suddenly just came up with, having really struggled trying to get there? When was the point at which you thought, oh my gosh, actually, this is working? What was it that suddenly said to you, and how long did it take before you went, hold on, I've got something here?
Yeah, well, I took it around all the retailers that I knew, and they all said, there's something in China that's really cheap. We don't need your product. It's made in England. So, then something happened, which most people watching will probably not know about, but if you Google it, there was a product that they used on leather to stop mould growing, and it's irritant. But it doesn't matter because it's on shoes, it's on the outside.
Yeah.
Leather sofa started to be made in China. So the factories just took the same product that went, this is for leather, and used it on sofas. Ooh. And when the sofas came to the UK and people sat on them, they started to irritate the skin. And so about 2008, there was a thing called the toxic sofa scandal, because it was burning people's skin. They were getting huge lesions, really serious, and it got into national press. And then they said, what is it? What's causing it? And they found out it was this anti-mold treatment. So if you Google toxic sofa scandal, it was the second biggest class action lawsuit since thalidomide. And they said, where's that guy that always smiles with that product? The guy that, wears this old shabby suit and drives that old clapped out car.
So the smile did come into...
Yeah, I remember going to Hush Puppies trying to sell the product, and they weren't interested, and my battery died in the car park, and they came out and helped me to charge my battery, and they said, you're not doing very well, Byron, are you? Because I was really struggling. But they said, where's that guy? That black guy, for argument's sake, with a smile, with the product.
Now, let me ask you something there. Sorry, I'm interrupting here. Now, you've just said that black guy with the smile. Do you think your appearance now actually was an advantage? Because they remembered you look different, don't you? Come on.
I've got to say, I think it is.
You look different, don't you?
Yeah.
So difference means people remember you.
That's right, and that's the quickest way to remember me. I know it is. In my industry as a chemist, as you say, there's very few. So I know that people may not say it to my face, but they will say, that black guy. Oh yeah, Byron. I've got a client that does say that. I won't say his name on here because he'll crucify me. But he says it with a big smile on his face because he actually told me that he said it, and everybody went, Byron, we've got his number.
See, because I tell you why I picked that question, because or that comment up. Because I say to people, if you look different, believe me, it's an advantage. And as long as you say something half reasonable and half sensible, people will remember you. So, listen, there's always going to be areas where it works against you. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, listen, carte blanche. But I think in certain circumstances, looking different can be an advantage. And I think you need to you've just been that's a brilliant advantage. They all remembered you.
They do, because when I talk about my style days, the Zeneca days, I used to go to Clark's. They're in the West Country.
Yeah.
Everybody said, oh, there's Byron. People walk past me in the street that I don't know and say, oh, are you so-and-so from London? I'm like, no. Because they're just, everybody go, we know that guy. I used to go to Kendal in the Lake District, K Shoes. Yeah. I used to go to Norwich. So all these places where there's no black faces.
Yeah, no.
And there wasn't any trouble.
No.
But everybody remembered me. So when I went back, it was like familiar. Then, of course, I moved to Denmark, South Jutland.
Yes.
Where, again, they'll crucify me, but I had a bank account and I didn't need any ID when I went into the bank because they just knew.
So being different helps?
I absolutely think so. Yeah. In the 90s, I went to the Irish border, the shoe factories on the border. And apart from the fact I could have maybe looked a bit like a soldier, but everybody remembered me. So I found it a massive advantage, and I try and say that to people around me, to say if you look different, it's an advantage.
Now, the other thing that I've just picked up from you is you were persistent. I mean, listen, doors were being shut all the time.
They were.
But you were persistent, and of course then the opportunity came.
Yeah.
The opportunity came, and now it was a question of could you maximise that opportunity? And I reckon you did.
I did. There's a couple of things happened, because we had a little tiny manufacturing unit, and suddenly people said, I need that product, and I need lots of it, because we don't want to be sued. We want Microfiche there, anti-mold treatment on our furniture. I won't say the companies. We don't want to be sued, so we need it. And I was like, yeah, great, thinking, I haven't got the capacity, but let's get the order first. Let's find a way of delivering.
Get the order first, great.
And that's what we did. So I found people that would make it for us, but at the end of the day, we fulfilled all the orders.
Yeah, nice.
Grew the team, and then I met a lady called Andrew. I think you may know Andrew Trevidi. Casual conversation at the University of Leicester. We'd never worked with the university before, and she said, does it work on textiles? And I said, don't know. And we did some testing with the University of Leicester, and it worked, and I thought, wow.
Now there's an example, and I'm afraid too many businesses don't do what you just did, which is on their doorstep are some fantastic minds sitting in some universities, and they've just not taken advantage. And I think partly universities don't reach out. I mean, you obviously didn't. They don't reach out and say, look, this is what we're very, very good at. And you know, innovation, we could be so much more innovative if that partnership, and you just give an example of where it did work, and how innovative you became. But I think if there's one takeaway, and you're a classic example of it, is work with the very best in your region, and they're probably sitting in the universities right now with the most amazing skill set.
Yeah, and we work with some, and I mean great universities. University of Leicester, De Montfort Uni, the world centre of excellence for textiles.
Nice.
So most people, especially in the fashion industry, anything to do with textiles, have been through DMU, De Montfort University.
And of course, Leicester itself was
a textile industry. That's right.
Yeah, city of textiles.
I work with Aston. The microbiologist there. Because what I realised, after speaking with Andrew, is I'd always thought, I can't just keep going in the corner and mixing stuff up. This is ridiculous. And to take this product to the next level, I need some smart people.
Yeah.
Where are the smartest people? In universities. Because we think of them as an extension of sixth form colleges. They're just teaching institutions. And that's a message for universities, to get out there and say to business,
I think so.
We have this capability. I went down to the Open University the other day. I did my degree at Open University. Couldn't afford to go to proper university.
I was going to ask you, then I completely forgot. Was you obviously decided not to go to uni? You remember you went from A-level straight to
couldn't afford it.
ICI?
Couldn't afford it. My mum couldn't afford it. I went down to Open University the other day, and I met this guy who is like one of the world leaders on air purification, and he's so passionate. I mean, he lost me after about the first 10 minutes, but he's so passionate. And I thought, this resource is here.
Yes, right.
50 miles away for us to use, and we're developing something with the Open University.
Good.
So I think universities, for them, it's good, if they're watching this podcast, to get business involved and say, we've got all this capability on your doorstep.
I think you're a great case study for that. And I've always moaned about it, the fact that we've never been able to get universities and businesses working. There are some fantastic minds. Okay, so rocking on then. So the sulphurs were a problem. You were the panacea to the entire world. You got cracking. You did the right entrepreneurial thing. You took the orders. Then, right, how do I resolve this? It's not a problem. Good way round. And then, of course, you start to mushroom. Now, I know for a fact that you export. So how did the export journey start? Because, and I'll tell you why I'm going to ask that question. You spent 4 years out in Denmark.
That's right.
Yeah. So you understood what it's like to be outside of these shores.
Yeah.
75% of businesses in the UK have never exported. Never.
Yeah.
And that's one of our biggest challenges. So why did you do it when 75% of businesses don't do it? Was it the Denmark thing, or did you see an opportunity?
I think there's a couple of factors. As I say, being an immigrant, well, my mum was an immigrant, is naturally entrepreneurial. So in our family, we kind of have that streak in us. And the thing that attracted me to Zeneca or ICI was that when I wrote to them for a job, their letter came back with all their overseas offices. So I've always had that overseas thing. My sister's lived in Spain on and off for probably 12 years with the kids, carted the kids around. My brother's lived in Spain, I've lived in Denmark. So we've never been afraid of travel. when I was there, I realised what a great world we have. And it's not a soundbite, it's a great world, it's a big place, there's lots of cultures and there's lots of opportunity. So if you have a product in the UK that you've developed, why not sell it to the world? Really, there's different cultures, different money, different all sorts of things, but we're all people. So if you've got a product you believe in, rather than keep trying to develop markets in the UK, sell it to the world. It's a great place. You go and see great places. It's hard work. It develops you as a person. But there are other countries that will need your product in a greater or lesser form. So, as an example, Microfiche stops bacteria and fungi, stops mold, and it's antimicrobial, which is great. Now, and it stops odours. The biggest use for Microfiche in the UK is freshness. So John Lewis can sell more bedding. Nets can sell more shoes.
And by the way, I always have to send you a photo every time I pop into
when you go to Next. Yeah.
Microfiche brand is there, and I think, God, I did it a few times, and I got bored of doing it.
No, keep doing it. I actually did it myself yesterday. I went to Next to take a photo.
Fantastic. Yeah. You put the credit card in.
That's right. That's right. It's there.
Fantastic. Anyway, it's enough promotion for Next.
You lost my train now. Where was I?
Yeah, you would start to sell to a lot of exporting.
Exporting. So Microfiche is antimicrobial, freshness. You go to South Africa, it's about disease. The same product, different market.
But let me ask you a question. But did you get on a plane to find out this? How did you know this?
By asking. Okay, I built up a network of people. But nowadays, we've got email, guys. Yeah. We've got internet. Google. You've got LinkedIn. You can ask somebody directly on LinkedIn, is there a place for my product in your country? Do you know anyone that wants to be a country manager? Do you know anyone that wants to manufacture for us? Do you know anybody that can sell it for us in your country? We've got a product that does this. Is there an application in your country, maybe in a different field? And honestly, you'd be amazed. The main thing is, my mum used to, there's a saying, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yes, it's about asking, isn't
My
it?
mum used to say, if you don't ask, you don't want.
Like it.
And when they see that keenness, you can do it. And
so
it's never been easier to export.
So what you're saying is a lot of businesses, 75%, I'll say that figure again, never pick up the phone. Well, actually, that was the old days, pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone, showing your age.
But go to Google and actually research. And I think a lot of it, and I wonder because you obviously travelled a bit. I did as well with my music.
Yeah.
Which is why I knew there's a market for the music.
Yeah.
Because I travelled a lot.
Yeah.
And then as you travel a lot, you see a different perspective, and and you think, oh, maybe I can. It's happened with the magazine in America. That wasn't even.
That's great.
Wasn't even a surprise to me because we've done it with the music. So once you've done it once, you can do it again. It becomes quite easy. And I think we just have to persuade people to do exactly what you're saying, and I think it's brilliant the way you've said it. Is simply ask. And say
ask. The DIT, Department of International Trade, are great. They'll support you. You can go to the DIT. You can even ask them to ask. Better that you ask yourself and say to the DIT, "Oh, I want to do this in this country. How can you help me?" And they have facilities, they have services, they have people, they have the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, and it's all free. Well, you pay for it through your taxes. It's not free, like a free lunch, but it's all there. And you'd be amazed. Your product that you may be selling, I don't know, £1 million a year in the UK, somebody in another country for a different model with the same product could easily be 10 million, 100 million.
So two things I've heard from you here. One is always be on the lookout for opportunities. And secondly, ask the question. Continue to ask questions. Ask, because you just don't know. And two other insights. One is, there's a partner right next to you, sitting in a university.
That's right.
Another insight you've just said is, if you're frightened of asking, go and talk to another partner like UKTI and say, I have this great product. What do you think are the possibilities?
That's right.
So it's always about asking and looking for people. And I think you're a great example of somebody who didn't just sit within the four walls, but thought, they call it outside the box, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, And there's a term in economics for it, opportunity cost. What's the cost of not asking?
Yeah.
Just ask. The most they can do is tell you to, I won't say the word on live camera, to go away.
So which was the first territory you wrapped up?
China.
Wow. You sold to China?
We sold to China.
Now, not many people sell to China.
Not many people sell to China. So all our products is all made here. So we are, by definition, an export champion with the Department of International Trade. All Microfiche is made here, almost underneath where you're sitting.
So how did you get China?
A good friend of mine, David Hampson, he may be watching this. I'll tag him in when I see it. I met him when I was consulting, but I've known him a long time, and he said to me, "You need an office in China." He said, "You need an office in China because it's the growth area, and you need to get in there before the Olympics, because if you get in before the Olympics, it's going to be cheaper." So I went to China in 2007. Cold, met people off a plane.
Sounds like Denmark.
Yeah.
Cold?
I mean, I was cold. The country's warm, but I was cold. I didn't know anybody. And arranged to meet some people in a hotel for an interview. And I said, "Do you want to be our country manager for China? Show me how good you are. Tell me how good you are. Can you sell Microfiche into China?" And we had a little beauty competition, as they call it. And we set up an office in China. And what happened was when we came back to the UK and spoke to retailers, they said, "Our goods are made in China. How are you going to do that? We've got an office in China." And the two went, ka-ching.
The other thing that keeps popping up, every time you said there's an opportunity, there's somebody, you mentioned someone's name. So you obviously were networking and talking to people. Or how important is that? People tend to forget that you need to get out and about and connect with it. Because you do drop the name every time you do it. So it means you've gone out to make connections.
And it's crucial, because a story that I heard is, you know, on your phones, the glass.
Yeah.
That was invented in 1967, apparently.
Okay.
Now, most people think it's 15, 20 years old.
That's right.
But the person who invented it didn't ask, didn't tell anyone. I don't know who it was, but apparently they just, "This is a great idea. I'll wait for the world to come knocking." And it doesn't happen.
No.
You just have to ask, and that means networking. And networking, to me, it's not about turning up at events with the business cards. It's about getting to know people. You know, we met on stage with MSD UK and we had a laugh.
Yeah, we did. And that's how we stayed in touch ever since.
And it's about getting to know people. You know, I know about, your daughter playing the guitar, and, but I am genuinely interested in people. So I'm curious about them. I'm not nosy, but I like people. And I've got a friend who is the opposite, and he always says, "When we go out, Byron, you're a nightmare, because I just want to have a drink and have a chat with you, and you just want to listen to everybody." You're the Claire Rayner of business. But networking is important, because you never know who you're going to meet. You never know. And one of the biggest contracts we got in the early days, when we were a tiny business, and it kept us afloat, was a random meeting with a guy in Northampton, who then had another random meeting with a guy in a bar in China. And then said, this guy in China said, "I've got a problem." They were talking, and he said, "I think I've met someone that can help you." So if you don't ask, you don't get. And if you don't ask, your name's not out there.
I also think the more people you meet, I don't know, some people say this doesn't work, but I think the more people you meet, the more opportunities will come up.
They will. And Ninder, there's a misconception. People that are not in business, they watch Dragon's Den, they watch The Apprentice, and they say, "Oh, business people all just want to shaft each other and be horrible." No. Not at all. Most people in business want to help people. And you see it worldwide. And the US is a classic example. Everybody just wants to help you.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's a public persona. Okay, so you started to sell abroad.
Yeah.
And you started to ramp up.
Yeah.
And then from China you went to
India,
and then other countries. Now, what's also interesting, because I'm very conscious of time, is that there are a couple of other things. Now, they say, so you went school, A-levels, and then later on in life you did a degree. Most people don't bother.
That's right, yeah.
But also what you did was you then went on to Goldman Sachs.
Yes.
So the picture I'm getting here is that you're a believer in lifelong learning, is the impression I get. And that you believe that every day you should take as an opportunity to learn even more, to educate yourself even more. At this stage, you didn't have to go to Open University.
No.
You didn't have to really go to Goldman Sachs and devote a day or whatever it is. But you were inquisitive, you were keen.
Nosy.
Have I got that right? And should all entrepreneurs be thinking like that?
I think they should. And the thing with being an entrepreneur is you need to know your limits. And when I did the Goldman's programme, a friend of mine said, "You're growing your business, Byron. I know you. I know that you like playing football, you like playing squash, you like to go to the pub, you like to do your business. But if you're going to get to where you want to be, there's some stuff that you're going to need to learn." So again, the choice is stay doing that, or I suggest you try this programme. So I looked at the Goldman's programme and I thought, it looks fantastic. The application was 30 pages. So I did 2 pages a week for 3 months and then got it in. Yeah, because I couldn't do it all in one go. I haven't got that kind of space in my head. And when I looked at the form, it's the thing that you have to do yourself. You can't give it to somebody else to do.
But it's interesting you kept at it though.
Yeah.
Most people have done two pages and left it. But you actually...
Yeah, no, I kept on it because I thought I want to do it and I want to give it a chance. And I thought I may not get on it because it's hugely oversubscribed. I applied, got interviewed, and I went on it. And Mark Hart, if you're listening again, great guy.
He's in the latest issue.
Oh, is he?
Of the Business
Is it? Yeah. But again, I went on there with open eyes, open mind, and within the first 2 modules, I thought I think this is going to be the best thing that I've ever done in my business. And Ninder, it still is today, because it taught me to be much more rounded as a person. It taught me, of course, I was one of the archetypal entrepreneurs. I don't know about numbers, that's somebody else's job. And I didn't. But it taught me that you need to know the numbers, something that you hear people on Dragon's Den say. You need to know the numbers. You need to know where you're going. You need a strategy. You need to listen to your people. You need to show leadership, all this rounded stuff. And then it made me realise as well, it made me realise about me, which is most important, because I realised what things I have in me as a person and what things turn me on and turn me off. And I realised that you need to have people around you with the same values. Not they don't have to be like you, but the same values. And that's why I'm still smiling, because as we grow as a business, we grow a team. If it can get strenuous, but if you've got people around with the same values, it's enjoyable.
I was going to ask you, you're still smiling. So, how do you manage stress? Because there must be times you think, "Oh God, I've got to..." Do you have a technique?
No, I'm not trying to sound like a smart behind. No. I think is the word. But I don't stress. I've always thought there's things you can control, there's things you can't control. Running a business is tough. The Goldman's programme helped. Now there's a national version, the Help to Grow, which again is a similar programme, and it's great. I recommend any entrepreneur to get on it. But it takes away that loneliness, because you're running a business. It is a lonely place, because especially if you've got a family, it's almost like I said this the other day and I got in trouble, but it's like a mother pig giving birth. You've got 10 piglets sucking on this side and 10 piglets sucking on this side. And that's your business and that's your family. And there's no one saying to mother pig, "How are you?" So when you have that network of other business owners, it's so helpful. We have a little group within Goldman's called the GS5, right. And they will be listening at some point or watching. Love you guys, by the way, but we meet probably not enough, actually, probably 4 or 5 times a year, and at least one of those we go abroad. We just have a little CEO detox, and it helps us all to keep fired up. So yeah.
And so I suppose linked to that work-life balance. So is that how you resolve it?
Yeah, again, work-life balance. I learnt this in Denmark.
Yeah.
So in Denmark, 5 o'clock, switch off, everybody. I don't know if they still do today, but that was 20 years ago. The shops at the weekends open till 12:30.
Wow.
So you spend time with your family. The last Saturday of the month they're open till 4. So in my business, I say to people, my team, after 5 o'clock, when you leave, switch off. Come back in the morning. When you're on holiday, switch off. No emails, nothing. And I do. I play football in the evening. I
was going to say football, music, sound engineer, so yeah.
Playing the bass.
Yeah.
I do all that normal stuff, and at weekends the same, yeah. I think that's important to recharge your battery and keep your batteries charged as well.
So, you just said recharging batteries. So one of the problems with CEOs and entrepreneurs is having the bandwidth to innovate. So in other words, they're so engrossed in the day-to-day, they forget about continual innovation. And by the way, I'm guilty. I'm terrible, absolutely terrible.
I've been there.
So the question is, how do you inculcate that culture of innovation without getting dragged into day-to-day? Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely.
Because that's something you got to
Yeah. And it's a journey, because it's something that you can't do from day one, because you need good people around you. You need good people around you to say, I'm going to task you guys with running this business. And I will sometimes come up with an innovative idea. In the early days, of course, it's you doing the innovation.
Yeah.
But there comes a point where you can't do everything, and you have to, it's a cliche, work on the business, not in the business.
Yeah.
Something I picked up from Mark Hart. So you have to get good people around you. And their job is to run the business, to innovate as well, which gives you the bandwidth and the space to say, do you know what, I've just seen something. Can we do this in our business? Can we have something new? The pandemic happened. How can we get Microfiche on as many services as possible? I know, a fogging machine. Develop it, guys.
Yeah, it's that bandwidth, isn't it?
It's that bandwidth, and it is tricky. If you're a very small team or you're on your own, it's tricky. But as soon as you grow, I would encourage anyone to get smart people around you. You know, sometimes it's about salaries, I get it, and benefits. Sell that to your prospective employees or partners, but get them in and make sure they're capable of running the team and give them the tools to do so, like I had at Echo. Make them entrepreneurs in your business.
And talking about culture, you just talked about culture and making sure everybody's rocking the way you want to rock and have that DNA. But are there any time where you sit back, and probably not now, might have earlier on, self-doubt? Did you ever think, I'm on the right path here, I'm on the right path, or doesn't it, or do you just jump out of bed every morning and say, yo,
I'm on it.
I'm on it.
Self-doubt.
Don't have time to sleep.
Yeah, that's a good question. I suppose I've not really done self-doubt. I don't want that to sound
no, that's fine,
cocky, but I read a quote once by Fidel Castro, who said, and that's not an indication of my political allegiance to anybody, but he said, if what you're doing is good, then not having self-doubt is good. And if what you're doing is bad, then not having self-doubt is bad. I might have said that backwards, but I think you get the principle of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I get the point.
So I generally don't have self-doubt. I believe that anything's possible. You know, we have a global business. I'm from a council estate, a black guy as well. Yeah. So I do go out with that. That's my doctrine every day, that everything's possible. And of course, there are people smarter than me that say, Byron, hold on a minute, that's going to take 2 years, or that's going to take a year, or that's going to take a lot of cash, and which is kind of how Echo is run as a business. Nothing's impossible. It may cost a lot of money, or may take longer, but it can be done.
A couple of final questions. What does success look like for you?
Wow. For me, success means the team here are happy. And when I say the team, I mean the global team. We've now got 13 offices worldwide. But we've all got the same kind of values.
And how do you do that from here?
It's quite tricky, but you know, I know it's an old cliche, again, just be yourself. Okay. If you're not yourself, people see through that.
Yeah.
Success is growing this business to be the best it can be. We want to be the Gore-Tex of freshness, so that when you think of freshness and cleanliness, you just think, oh, is it been microfreshed? Like you're seeing in Next, you'll see in some other big companies soon. So clothing, footwear, bedding, has it been microfreshed? We want to become a name like Hoover. Has this room been hoovered? Has it been microfreshed? We want to become that verb. And success for me means, as I say, growing the team here, seeing them growing in themselves, expanding, getting more financially independent, sharing the business with people, and yeah, me playing the bass somewhere very hot and warm with the sun and the water drip in my ear at some stage.
Just, I was going to ask you. I'm going to ask now. You talked about bass. Did and does music help?
I believe it does. I love music. I mean, I love most music. I love reggae. I love hardcore rap. My number plate's NWA. So people watching will know what that means. I won't repeat the words on camera. I do have a real affinity to music. I always have done. When I was a kid, bass was expensive as a thing. So if you had a hi-fi, it was generally, the first Amstrads were like, yeah. So to have deep bass was like a luxury. It was like a quality. So I always had a thing about bass, hence I like reggae music. Proper reggae music, dub as we call it.
Proper.
Yeah.
Hits
and
you
it does. And you know, I go home, I've got an acoustic bass, a friend bought it me. Hey, I'm rubbish at it, by the way, so don't think I'm going to be playing anybody's band. but it just gives you something that nothing else can give you. I'm going to say it's like a drug, but you know what I mean by that, in the good way.
Final question then.
Yeah.
And it's been wonderful. So final question, and let me just sum up some brilliant stuff you've said here. So one is, and then I'll ask you the final question.
Okay.
So firstly, you've got to ask. You've talked about looking for opportunities. You've talked about be yourself. If you believe in something, then doubt shouldn't come in. If you genuinely believe in what you do, doubt won't come in. Doubt won't come in. You've talked about, which is really good, lifelong learning.
Yeah,
always be looking to improve, always be looking to learn. You're based on innovation. Your whole persona, your whole business is based on innovation. So look for partners that can help you be on that track.
Absolutely.
To continue and innovate. Look outside your natural borders. You know, everybody naturally thinks, you know, I'm in Leicester, I can only sell to Leicester people. I'm in the UK or the Midlands, I can only sell to Midlands people. I'm in the UK, no. There's a big world out there.
Big world,
and scale can happen. Final question then. You're black, you said that yourself.
I think it's obvious, you can see that.
Afro-Caribbean background. You grew up in a council estate.
Yeah.
Your mother looked after 5 of you.
That's right.
So you've done it. So what's your message to people who think they don't have the right face, don't have the right skill set, and think the world's against us, or actually, I have doubt?
Yes.
What's your advice to them and people early on that entrepreneur journey, about to make that launch, that leap that you did, but they're thinking of all of these things?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the kind of background you came from.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
what I came from. That's your background.
And Ninder, you know what? 30 years ago was a very different time than it is today.
Very different.
Very different. We don't need to go into detail now, but it was very different. And if I want to give some kind of pearls of wisdom, I would say the first thing you need to do is to be the best version of yourself. And that doesn't mean, maybe controversial, standing up and saying, I need a concession because of my colour or because of where I'm from. Be the best version of yourself. Old-fashioned stuff, look people in the eye. You know, strike up a conversation. Think of your business, if you're an entrepreneur, as I want it to be the best product, the best service, the pricing, the delivery, all those everyday things. And people will see that. They will see that. And I can only say it from my experiences, they may say, and it must be good because of what you've probably had to go through. So that's the message. Anybody can do it. They can. We're a global business. Some businesses, there's an old saying they used to front. They'd put somebody up front when it's really run by a black person or whatever.
That's right.
I'm front and centre in my business, and I'm in countries.
Be proud of who you are.
Yeah, you know, Leicester's have got a huge Indian population, as we all know. So I have Indian friends in Leicester that say, how do you deal with India? We won't deal with India. We're Indian. But, you know, I'm living proof. I'm not here talking or writing a textbook about it. I'm living proof. You can go to India and see Microfiche. You can go to Pakistan. Our guy in Pakistan was here the other day. He's a great laugh. And just be the best version of yourself. And it will translate worldwide.
Byron, it's been wonderful.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed your coffee as well. I'm going to have another one.
Yeah. Mine's cold. I've not had a chance to drink mine.
Yeah. And listen, fantastic. I knew it would be. And well, look forward to listening to it on podcast. And on YouTube, and of course I look forward to your success also in the magazine.
Let's do that. And also
it's a story I think that's we've hinted at before, but I think we could do a much wider piece, so I look forward to your contribution in the next issue of the Business Influence. Byron, have a great day, and I'll see you on the 13th.
See you on the 13th, and anybody as well, just look on LinkedIn. There's a picture of us on the NASDAQ tower, the Microfiche name and my face, which is, for us, that's the zenith in life.
Your face. Remember the word, your face. Proud of it. Cheers.
All right, cheers. Thanks for that, Ninder. Cheers.